This is the story of Ryu, the strongest hunter on Earth, who dies because he was a single virgin loser. In the previous episode, we saw how Ryu mercilessly drove his dagger inside the angel's body, giving her a brutal death and becoming the god of death. After returning to Earth, he got revenge on the ugly, fatzos who bullied his little brother by breaking every one of his bones and all 10 of his fingers. He then gave his little brother all the possible happiness, feeding him meat, buying a big house, and just when they were greeting their new neighbors, they met a beautiful, gorgeous woman named Ahrin, an actress. When Wani laid eyes on Ahrin, he was practically speechless, and a little shyness crept in. He couldn't help but blurt out how pretty she looked, like an angel come to life, while Ryu was just staring at her, thinking about that angel that he just killed without any reaction. But before either of them could get a word out, this dude dressed in black stepped right in front of Ahrin. He had a real rude tone, asking the brothers who they were, and he even threw in a snide comment about whether they were her fans. That really got under Ryu's skin, and he got a bit annoyed. So with his arms crossed, he made it clear that they weren't fans and that they'd only just moved into the building today. Meanwhile, Wani was feeling a tad shy. Then Wani, all cheerful, tried to hand over a rice cake as a friendly gesture. But that bodyguard of Ahrin's wasn't having any of it. He rudely stopped Wani right in the middle of his offering and flat out said they didn't want anything. To top it off, he told the brothers to mind their own business and not bother them. With that, he just turned on his heel and walked away, casually mentioning that Ahrin ain't into sweet stuff. Left the brothers feeling pretty insulted, that's for sure. Next up, the bodyguard opened up the door to Ahrin's place and told her to head on inside. She followed his lead, but she couldn't help but shoot a sorry look back at the brothers. Today's goal is 3,000 likes. Like and subscribe to support the channel. Now, let's continue. Now, Ryu was getting pretty mad about the whole deal. He might not know who these people were, but that man's rude behavior was really getting on his nerves. On the other hand, Wani was still standing there, practically speechless. And it ain't just because he was feeling insulted. It's cause he realized that the lady he'd been staring at was none other than his idol, Ahrin. His eyes lit up with happiness, and he couldn't believe he was seeing her in the flesh. While Ryu was confused, thinking who she was, being a single virgin and a shut-in, he didn't have much knowledge about famous people. Then Wani excitedly explained to Ryu that she was Ahrin, and Ryu asked in confusion, "Who is Ahrin?" Then the scene shifts, and we see Ahrin sitting on her sofa, watching the news on her phone. The news is filled with reports about how some famous actors mysteriously died overnight from heart attacks, and she recognizes that some of them were her friends. She feels a growing sense of terror as she wonders what is happening to the world. She places her phone on her bed, still filled with worry and a hint of fear, and starts thinking about how she barely survived this round, all because of her bodyguard. The thought of killing those damn goblins from her own hand is still terrifying her. To lighten the mood, she thinks jokingly that if she had died today, her name might have been in the news. Seeing Ahrin's worried expression, her bodyguard asks what's on her mind. She initially brushes it off, but the bodyguard sits beside her and gently encourages her to share her thoughts, assuring her that he's always here to listen. With a somber expression, Ahrin confesses that she's thinking about how drastically the world has changed and how she might die in the next round. Hearing this, the bodyguard reassures her, emphasizing that his job is to protect her and she can rely on him. Ahrin smiles warmly in response and expresses genuine gratitude for his unwavering support. Ahrin goes on to explain that when the company first assigned her a bodyguard, she had assumed he was there merely to keep an eye on her. However, she acknowledges that without his presence, she might not have survived the first round. She shares a light-hearted moment with her bodyguard, mentioning that the new neighbors who brought rice cake looked yummy, but her bodyguard replied that she would get ugly and fat if she ate things like that. Ahrin replied that it was okay to take the cake, and they would not have eaten it. The bodyguard was too rude to the brothers, as they might have felt bad and insulted. The bodyguard replied that he knows all about people like them. They were just trying to be friendly for their own selfish reason, and if they had taken the rice cake, they would have bothered them non-stop. But Ahrin, remembering the faces of the brothers, Wani, an innocent boy, and Ryu, a Chad, and thought they didn't look like bad people to her. Then Ahrin notices something about one of the two neighbors. One of them looks older, possibly above 15 years old, which means he must have killed 100 goblins to survive. The bodyguard replied that he must have, and that's why he is alive. Ahrin again gets a little panicked, saying how amazing Ryu is. To think someone who has gone through such a cruel and hellish experience can look so calm. Hearing this, the bodyguard laughingly replied that killing 100 goblins was not that hard, and those who didn't kill them were just idiots. But Ahrin knew inside that it was not easy to kill 100 goblins for normal people. The bodyguard did manage to do so as he was a skilled fighter and received professional training. Then she started thinking about that guy named Black Scythe. In front of him, her bodyguard looked like a kid. Black Scythe was just too overpowered, and she almost felt bad for the goblins, seeing how brutally Black Scythe killed them. Then she started to think, who would Black Scythe be in real life, and how he looked like in real life. The scene shifts, and we see 1 month has passed, and it's January 31st. Ryu is now in his bed, and Wani is holding his big bro's hand worriedly, saying he has to promise him that he will come back alive no matter what. Ryu smilingly replied not to worry, as he is too strong to die, even if he wanted to, and not even a god can kill him. Hearing these words, Wani was still worried. Then Ryu patted Wani's head, saying not to worry too much and to eat once Ryu's soul gets transported to another world and sleep. When Wani wakes up from his sleep, Ryu will be there standing beside him. With that, Ryu's vision became blue, and he got transported again with the rest of the people. As all the remaining survivors made their way to the dungeon, they were hit with a wave of panic. Some let out screams of pure fear, while others just looked around, trying to wrap their heads around the place that looked more like a jungle than anything else. Then, one of the girls in the group spotted Ryu and called him out as the guy who ranked #1 in the last round. Ryu stood tall, soaking in the attention, and noticed whispers about him starting to spread, a good sign for the plans he had in mind. He wanted everyone to recognize who was running the show. Ryu's eyes briefly met Youngman's, but before he could dwell on that, a voice filled the area. Yep, it was another angel, and man, she was a looker. But this was a different one, and questions buzzed through the crowd about what happened to the last one. The new angel flashed a friendly smile and explained that the previous angel had gone missing for reasons unknown, and she was here to take over. Seeing her smile, the crowd's nerves started to calm. Maybe this angel wasn't going to be as much of a nightmare as the last one, they thought. But that hope was short-lived. Her smile twisted into something sinister, and with a hand delicately touching her lips, she let out a creepy laugh. She was stoked, ready for some fun after a long time. With a casual flick, she handed down the new quest. They had to pick a zone leader in 3 hours. Seeing this, everyone got confused, but then they noticed that all the people in this round can pass, unlike the previous round where half of them died. The angel noticed the confused looks on the players' faces and with a smile, decided to break down the quest for them. She explained that this round wasn't about fighting. Everyone could make it through just by picking a zone leader. The chosen leader would have the power to command anyone in their zone to do anything they wanted, from crawling on the ground to dropping dead. "Isn't that an awesome skill?" she asked, looking around at the player. As she laid out the details, a guy with green hair listened intently, and another dude, all muscles and a tattoo on his neck, seemed pretty annoyed. The angel wrapped up, saying that in 3 hours, she'd be back for the vote to decide the leader. The green-haired guy, a little shaky, raised his hand and asked if it was really that simple. Just vote for a leader, and they all get to live. The angel's grin went a bit wicked as she confirmed it. Just a vote, and then bam, they'd all be back on Earth, safe and sound. Now, hearing this, everyone got happy and started to celebrate, saying this time no one is going to die. Ryu, from behind, remained with a serious face. Then the angel bid them good luck, and then she vanished, and the timer of 3 hours began. In the next moment, the remaining players were still happy, as no one will die today, except for Youngman. He was not. He was damn angry, and while grinding his teeth, he said he was ready to fight and kill some monsters. Seeing Youngman angry, his buddy panically said to him that just to let it go, as the angel will let them live if they just vote. So, why is Youngman complaining so much? Youngman, still angry, replied that he has used all his points to strengthen, and now he can't even beat the crap out of someone, and he is just too frustrated. Ryu watched Youngman from a distance, thinking to himself that in all his 99 lives, Youngman was always the same hothead. Ryu turned away, muttering that he'd sort out Youngman when the time was right. Then Ryu noticed everyone's discussion about whom to vote for and what to do, but Ryu said that is not important to him. Then, while walking toward the forest, he continued, saying he has an even more important thing to do, which is selecting a class, the class of a Grim Reaper, the god of death. And in order to do that, he has to reach level 10 in 3 hours. Just then, a goblin sporting a red hoodie appeared. Ryu's grip on his dagger tightened. He taunted the goblin, daring it to come closer. The goblin charged, and Ryu, with an emotionless face, cut through its neck as easily as a hot knife through butter. Then the system notified that he gained experience points with 15 gold, and all his stats increased by 1% because of the ruin of slaughter. Now, standing beside the fallen goblin, Ryu knew what he had to do. He had 3 hours to reach level 10 and choose his class. That was the only way his plan would work out. As another gang of goblins neared, Ryu readied his dagger. He couldn't help but smile, seeing the goblins approach like a kid waiting for a slice of delicious cake. And the next moment, Ryu started the one-sided slaughter of the goblin. Then, after an hour of bullying the goblin, Ryu wiped the blood off his face and checked the time. 1 hour down, he muttered to himself and flicked open his status window. He was surprised to see he had hit level 9 and racked up 8 stat points already, way quicker than he'd expected. Without a second thought, he chucked all his points into agility, given his base stats were pretty much rubbish, and after living for 99 lives, his battle sense became so sharp that his body moves on its own during battle. To support his body, he needs agility. That's when Ryu noticed something and turned back with a serious look. Someone had been following him for a long time while he was caught up in the fight. Normally, he wouldn't bother with distractions since he was so focused on battling, but this was new. This hadn't happened in his lives, so he figured he better check it out. Then, with a serious look, pointing his bloody dagger toward the bush, Ryu said that he didn't know who they were, but now they had to show themselves. If they didn't come out, they better prepare for a painful death. As Ryu finished his sentence, a beautiful woman with messy brown hair panikedly came, both her arms raised up, saying she was here. Seeing her, Ryu realized she was none other than the actress he had met on the first floor, the one whose his little brother is a fan of, and Ryu started thinking why she was following him. Arin was just about to apologize and explain why she was following Ryu when suddenly someone else jumped into the conversation. It was a familiar figure, and it turned out to be that rude bodyguard from before. He quickly chimed in, apologizing and making it clear they hadn't been tailing Ryu for any bad reasons. He just wanted Ryu to take it easy. Ryu caught a glimpse of the bodyguard's nickname, Sang-cheol, and his reaction was immediate. His eyes went wide as he recognized the name. Sang-cheol was the trusted right-hand man of Gyunrok, the eldest son of Korea's largest corporation, who was also known by the fearsome nickname Heavenly Demon. He is one of the people Ryu wants to recruit into his team, along with a priest who was rumored to have the power to bring the dead back to life. Ryu hadn't expected to bump into Gyunrok's right-hand man so soon, and it made him wonder why such a guy would be protecting Arin. Then, it hit him. The priest might just be this skinny, innocent-looking girl right in front of him. Keeping his cool, Ryu's voice dropped as he asked them straight up why they were following him. They admitted they had been on his trail since he first set foot in the forest. Arin seemed a bit nervous as she explained, saying she had a proposition for him. With a hopeful smile, she said she wanted to team up with Ryu and asked if they could join forces. Hearing this, Ryu smiled and replied that joining forces means both parties are helping each other. Arin shakily replied that it's true, and Ryu replied he doesn't see how they can be any help to him, so he doesn't want to join forces with them. With a rude tone, he continued that they should go and stop wasting his time with this nonsense and go back. With that, Ryu turned back, saying he doesn't have any desire to form a team, and started going deeper into the forest. Well, it was his way to get revenge from the bodyguard. Then, as Ryu left, the bodyguard was really annoyed, saying Ryu was really arrogant. But Arin, she just collapsed to her knees, wiped out, mumbling about how Ryu's vibe was intense, like he could take a bite out of her at any second. Then she continued, saying she really wanted to be on the same team as Ryu from the first time she saw him fight, but it didn't work out well. The bodyguard, still annoyed, said he already told Arin that strong people like him always have big egos, and they like to act alone, and they hate to work on a team. Now standing beside the goblin corpses, they thought about what to do in the remaining time before the vote, and they decided to hunt some goblins like Ryu to level up. Then, as they started to go deep inside the forest, we see someone following them from the bushes. Then the scene shifts, and we see Ryu mercilessly continuing to kill the goblins while the goblins try to run for their lives. After killing goblins for an hour, a group of gnolls approached Ryu, and seeing them, Ryu gave a big, bright smile, saying, "Looks like something delicious came on its own." Then, as the group of wolfmen attacked Ryu all at once, Ryu, with a single swing, slaughtered them like vegetables, and their torn body parts fell from the sky like rain. With that, Ryu finally reached level 10. The system notified Ryu that as he reached level 10, he could access the shop. Then, a hidden quest appeared, to change class before the voting began. If Ryu changed his class today, he would get a 50% discount on today's items in the shop. Ryu explained that everyone could choose what class they wanted after reaching level 10, but no one knew how to choose a class. For a warrior, one had to kill 30 monsters in under 1 hour, and one could become a berserker after battling monsters for 1 hour while constantly bleeding, and so on. And after continuously grinding for God knows how much time, Ryu gathered this knowledge. After that, Ryu held the angel's special juice in his hand. He started to absorb it, and a bright yellow light surrounded Ryu. The system notified Ryu that he had changed his class to Grim Reaper, and he got 3 unique abilities. First, when he is wielding a scythe, his attack increased by 2. Second, when he is fighting at night, his speed will increase by 50%. And lastly, at night, all his senses will increase greatly. But it was not enough, so the system gave Ryu a Grim Reaper scythe to change his class, making him the first in the entire world. Then the system notified Ryu that he had reached the apprentice rank from beginner rank. Ryu explained that there are 6 ranks in total, starting with beginner, then apprentice, then regular, then expert, then master, then grandmaster. And with each rank comes a unique skill related to the class. As Ryu reached the apprentice rank, he acquired the skill Seal of Death. Using this, he can cast a seal on a target and deal double the damage. After merging it with the 2x damage of his weapon, the Grim Reaper Scythe, he can inflict 4x damage. He also gained the skill Tracking, which enables him to find anyone's location as long as he remembers that person's face or nickname. Oh boy, I wish I had this skill to track my crush. Now fully equipped, the first person Ryu thought to use his skill on was Youngmin. He used his skill to track him, and the system notified him that Youngmin was 190 meters away, with an arrow indicating the direction. So Ryu started to follow the arrow with an amused smile. The scene changes, and we see a tired Aren struggling to stay on her feet. She collapses to the ground, and when she tries to stand up, her whole body shakes. She's hurting bad and tells her bodyguard she can't run anymore. The bodyguard, who's hurt himself and freaking out, helps her to her feet. She's standing there saying the arrow wounds are killing her. The bodyguard, still scared, throws out a guess, saying maybe if they can just last this 1 hour without dying, their real bodies won't be hurt. But before Aren can reply, they hear a voice that makes them freeze. It's Youngmin and his crew. Youngmin's grinning like he's got the upper hand, telling them they're not getting away today. The bodyguard looks like he's ready to give up, thinking he can't die over this damn woman. He gets his dagger ready, though, because it looks like there's no choice left but to fight. Youngmin sees the dagger and calls the bodyguard, an old man, asking if he really wants to go at it with them. He then points behind him, showing off how many buddies he's got, and asking the bodyguard if he's blind not to see them all. The bodyguard yells out, full of anger, wanting to know why Youngmin's doing this and what he's gonna get from it. Youngmin just smiles that creepy smile and says he's gonna get something really good, leaving them both shocked. Youngmin continues, saying that he will take the woman behind him. As he's not interested in men, he can leave, and he won't do anything to the bodyguard. Youngmin only wants that woman who looks like Aren, the actress. Then, Youngmin's buddies, eyeing the woman who looks just like Aren, didn't care whether she was the real deal or not. In this world, where they can feel pain, they figured they could also feel pleasure, so they wanted to have some fun with Aren. Hearing this, Aren was struck with fear. Then Youngmin tried to make a deal with the bodyguard, saying if he handed over Aren, he could walk away without a scratch, and they'd return Aren unharmed after they had their fun. That way everyone's happy, he said. The bodyguard was torn. If he'd known they were after Aren from the get-go, he would have ditched her and saved his own skin. He was in this for the money after all, and his life was worth more than any job. But the fear of the heavenly demon being angry if he failed his duty to protect her made up his mind. He squared up, ready to throw down. Seeing this, Youngmin got a kick out of the old man gearing up for a fight. The bodyguard tried to reason, saying that what they were planning was a crime, but Youngmin just laughed it off. "Who's gonna punish us?" he jeered. "No one knows what we really look like or who we are in real life." With their backs against the wall, the bodyguard and Aren braced themselves, trying to figure out their next move. Then, out of nowhere, someone else shows up, and it's none other than the god of death, Ryu, just chilling under a tree, watching the whole showdown unfold. Youngmin saw Ryu, and panic flickered across his face, wondering what he was doing there. Then Ryu asked Aren what they were doing there, but before they could answer, Youngmin tried to tell Ryu, with his same attitude, to mind his own business. Ryu cut him off midway, asking, "Did I ask you?" The bodyguard hurriedly told Ryu everything, how Youngmin attacked them, and that they wanted to have some fun with Aren. Hearing this, Ryu glared at Youngmin and asked if this was true. Youngmin, with his rude attitude, replied that whether it's true or not, Ryu should just mind his own business. Ryu had had enough of Youngmin's nonsense. With a deep voice, Ryu said whether it's his business or not is none of Youngmin's business, and he should mind his own business. With that, he summoned his red, bloody scythe with a terrifying aura, shocking everyone. With that, the episode ends here. Don't forget to like and comment on part 3. Thanks for watching.